So, Jeet, thank you for your time. It has been always a pleasure talking to you. A few things we wanted to kind of discuss around the product. How do how do you think about the product? How has it evolved over the years? And what lies ahead in the product roadmap? A bunch of those things. But to begin with, can we start? Can we start with you talking about the proposition? What is the proposition that you are building? What is it? Why should the product exist? Uh,
Um,
in the absence of it, also the world was fine. So why should there be step out in this world?
First of all, thank you, Amit, for inviting me to this call. It has always been a pleasure discussing StepOut with you. To start with, why StepOut should exist or what is the value proposition, I would just want to take 2 minutes to give you an understanding of why we started it in the first place.
Sure.
The reason why we started is very pretty simple. When we were young, so I am from Kolkata, and we had a close relation with sports, especially football. So when we were young, we used to see a lot of talented individuals around us who used to play really well, but they did not get a chance to prove it on a national or an international level. Similarly, at the same time, we used to see that okay, India is doing good in cricket, but apart like other than any other sports, be it football or even in the Olympics, we are not at that part. We are yet to become a sporting nation. So that kind of wondered. I mean, everyone around us were complaining that, okay, India being a population of 1.4 billion people, why are we not competing at that global stage? But, when everyone was complaining, we kind of thought, ki, okay, what might be the actual reason? What is the root cause behind it? Then we realized it's not just that there is lack of talent. It's majorly because there is a lack of talent identification and conversely, absence of a proper pathway. So if a talent is there, they're not getting identified. And even if they're slightly even identified, there's lack of a proper data-driven path. So, that was basically the problem statement that we noticed. And then we related it to academics. That let's say when we were young, we could understand we are good or bad in a subject because of the marks that we used to get. For example, if I got 19 maths, I used to understand, okay, this is my strong area. If I got 70 and then I used to get 80 and 90, then I could have a proper pathway. We kind of then realized that, okay, if the same thing can be provided for sports as well, then the players could have an understanding of their progress. They can measure and accordingly, they can realize, okay, where are they good at, where they need to improve. Similarly, the coaches would also have an understanding. Instead of providing a generic feedback to everyone, they can have customizable sessions and accordingly, improvement plans can be figured out. So this was the entire thought process of why we started Step Out in the first place. The trigger point was mostly the state of affairs in Indian ecosystem. But when we started out upon researching, we thought, okay, this is the scenario in global sports as well, especially in the youth region. The analytics or data-driven evaluation, they're restricted to the top 1% of the pyramid. But if you look at the rest 99%, they're devoid of those technology. And we thought that, okay, if we can provide a technology which should be affordable and accessible at scale, because in a world where everything is digitized, the sporting ecosystem was lagging far behind. So we thought if we can provide a technology, and using technology, we have seen a lot of sectors being revolutionized, being democratized. So we thought, okay, why not? So that was our bold attempt to do something and then step out, shaped out, and here we are.
Very interesting. And just to push back on that, see, I understand that knowing one's weaknesses, identify like essentially discovery of talent and
Mhm.
identification of the shortcomings go a long way in improvement. But is it also not having the right kind of infrastructure, right kind of coaches, right kind of tournaments, playing with competitive players? All that is also missing, right? Do you think this what you're talking about discovery of talent and identification of weaknesses is this sufficient, or do you see this like a lot more has to happen for India to do better in sports, especially football?
I mean, it's a very valid question. When we see international countries, the kind of infrastructure or frameworks they have is we are way behind in terms of that. But like you rightly mentioned, if a proper 360-degree development has to happen, each and everyone has to play their part. One part might be the understanding or identification of progress, and then the other part is obviously presence of an infrastructure. But interestingly, whenever I think of this, I go back to 1983. Before 1983, even before India has won a one World Cup in cricket, cricket was always the same. Like, football or any other sports over here right now is. But when 1983 happened and a whole generation got influenced, and that slowly contributed to what cricket is right now. It's like a global industry, which is influencing each and every country which is out there. If we take out 1983 from the equation, probably we would not have been in this situation. So we need one such success story. We need one such, area where if we showcase it to the world, okay, this is where we can be there, then automatically infrastructure will follow. The government will invest, private sectors will come in, funds will no longer be an issue. So we just need to create that one success story. Be it an Indian player playing abroad, India as a team doing good in football. So if we have that one success story, I think in this apart from football. Right now, in my control, like probably in our control, we have this such a technology. Infrastructure is something which is not in our control. We will try our best to influence that and hope that if our success story is created, that infrastructure and all of this funding will again come in.
Fair enough. Got it. So coming back, you talked about you felt like in academics, identification of talent and paths to improvement. If those things are taken care of, then at least individually we can be more motivated and more channelize our energies in the right way. So that was the thought. How does that translate into the product, or how did it translate into your first version of the product, and how has the product evolved since then?
Exactly. So it was an interesting phenomenon of how we started. So we noticed that the scenario in youth sports ecosystem is actually the same across all sports. If you look at any sport right now, the youth, there is lack of data-driven evaluation and everything. So we had to choose one sport, to be honest. And when we first started out, like I mentioned, we have been from Kolkata and we were avid FIFA players. Like in college and everything, we used to play FIFA a lot. And from there, we got an understanding that, okay, in FIFA, you have this entire virtual world where there is identification of each and every metric. There is football manager. You can track the growth of the player. You can digitally transfer. You can scout from anywhere. We thought, okay, if this is possible in an e-sporting scenario, why it's not there in a physical scenario? And hence that actually motivated us to start from football because football being a global sport, it's present in all the countries, like all the countries play football. So we thought, okay, if we start from football, we can build up credibility around that, and then it would be easier to branch onto other sports. For example, basketball, hockey, and cricket, for instance. Right now, coming back to your question that how did the first version happen? So, like I mentioned, it was motivated mostly by FIFA. So we thought, okay, in FIFA, what do we get is all the actions, events, everything is tracked. And at the end of a match, you get the entire data summary of okay, what has happened, the ratings, the growth curves, each and everything is there. So we thought, okay, the first step for us would be to actually track the players and keep an account of okay, what events are happening. So let's say number of short passes, stuff like that, which are much more complex because goals, assists, stuff like this are already being noted and recorded. But when it comes to more deeper level actions like number of passes, number of shots, number of interceptions, and we can go one level down. What has been the type of pass, and the same boils down to each and every other sport. So we thought, okay, if we can build up a framework, a technological framework, which can actually capture this, then probably an entire player's activity in a field can be recorded. That is point one. Point two, when we have a historical, like a recording of like multiple matches, an entire data-driven CV or resume can be built. So we started from that okay, we need to identify actions and here also FIFA played an important part of to identify okay what are those actions, what can be a benchmark. We studied a lot of like manuals, guidelines, FIFA books everywhere, which is there like what is the baseline. So we have to start from the highest level of baseline which is available. So we started from there. We then created a glossary of okay, what kind of events do we require. And then the first MVP was simple. If a match is happening from the video, if someone is present, just manually note it down what is happening. So let's say one match is going to take like 2 3 days. So that is exactly what is still happening right now. Like the coaches, they manually do all of those stuffs. So we thought, okay, let us first manually do all of those stuffs, figure out what things are happening, then we implement technology to improve it. Because once we have a working principle, then we thought, okay, this is how we recorded. We got all the events and everything. Then we transform, try to make some sense, provide some charts and metrics out of it. We thought, okay, now this is happening. Next came the important part of adding technology to this layer because we know, okay, this is the input, this is the output that I'm getting. Right now, if I apply technology in the middle, that entire 3-4 days which people are doing manually, we can reduce it to hours. That's where we applied AI, computer vision, and that's how the entire thought process came. So that's one part of the product where the part of data extraction we are automating it. We are removing the tedious job from the coaches and analysts or whoever is out. So that's just part one of it. The second part of it, I have all these raw data points now collected. How do I represent it? It is there are a lot of complex data points, and even someone with a degree of data science would be difficult for them to comprehend or even articulate of okay what this means, how to make sense out of it. Then parallelly, we used to talk to all of these coaches, analysts who were out there because we had our Bible from the FIFA. That's where we started. But then, who would be the consumer? A consumer would be the coaches, the analysts, and mostly from the youth section, grassroots section, or even the who were not at the top tiers. So we started interacting with all of them. It was during around COVID where sort of things happened, and then people were open enough to come on a video call. Then we could exchange ideas, we could get their thoughts, we could tell them, okay, we can automate all of these data points. Now, what kind of stuff do you use to actually make sense of this data? If I'm just providing you the data, then that's one part of it. Then you again have to do this tedious job of making sense out of this data. And mostly 99% of the people won't even touch them because they have more important work to do. So that's where we realized, okay, using this data, we can create X inference, Y inference, Z model, A visualization, B graphs, charts. So all of this we figured out. And then that actually came into our product. Yeah, we started. So we started with one or two features. We were collecting the data point from the very beginning, but we started with one or two features. And then our machine language models kept on improving. We added more algorithms in place. And when the thing happened, it is right now the version that we have right now with it. But one thing that I would like to state is we have been very clear from the beginning, and that's how we designed our entire technical architecture. That okay, one, this architecture could be scalable to other sports. That's how the entire data models have been built. And secondly, if right now if we are connecting each and every action, providing more complex data points would be very easy. So keeping that in mind, we designed our data architecture, and that's why right now we can scale it to any and more data points. So that has what helped us having a vision in place that okay, this is what I want my product to be after 5 years, 6 years.
Got it. So I think on similar lines, if you can talk about what are the data points that you're capturing, what are the million data points that you capture
Mhm.
from a game, and how's the representation happening? And if you can do it with a demo, that is also fine. Otherwise, also
Perfect. So first, I would like to give an understanding of how we do it.
sure.
So first, when there is a video that is available, we track the players using the jersey numbers and we track each and every event that is happening. So we kind of took that route because there were other companies who were providing physical data, like what is like heat maps, like heart rate, stuff like that. Like they're mostly GPS providers, but those are mostly costly. Our target market, we wanted to establish that okay, this is a product that we are building which should be cost effective, which should be accessible and affordable across all. So hence we decided to rely solely on a video point, and we decided to collect each and everything that we can see from a single video source. Secondly, there were other companies who used to have like cameras which you have to attach to something, and then only they can extract it out of it. There also we said, okay, if I am like enforcing a camera purchasing, like if someone has to purchase a camera from us, then again there is a barrier to entry. We said, okay, we must be compatible across all cameras. So hence we decided to work on a video source and track each and every event. So let's say when we are tracking an event, we identify which players are involved in that event. I will take an example of a short pass. If a short pass is happening, which are the players which are involved in the event? At what location at the ground the action is happening? At what timestamp the action is happening? Who are the surrounding players? If there are other factors involved, like if it's a set piece, free kick, special action, stuff like that, we record each and everything. So once that is done, the entire video recording is transformed into a digital coded data language that we had, built upon ourselves. So once the entire process is done, the entire video is like transformed to a single string or a sort of a TXT file. And from that file, you can generate each and every data point that you want. So these are the mostly how we do it. In terms of data points, we can collect like whatever event is happening, be it a short pass, long pass, interception, tackle, foul, handball, each and everything that is happening, we collect that. If there is something which is like associated with a, let's say, a heart rate or something like that, that we don't collect. But apart from that, each and every event that is happening, we collect. Probably I can share my screen and give a short, like a 2-3 minute walkthrough of the product.
Sure.
That would be best.
And without GPS, you're also able to track the exact location, position of
Yes,
the player at any point in time.
exactly. Exactly. We are able to track, but there are a couple of nuances to it. For example, if the player goes out of frame, then tracking the actual location is a bit of an issue. We can obviously do a probability around that, that okay, this can be the track, but that won't be 100% accurate data. And our principle always has been, if this is the data which is influencing the careers and lives of someone, whatever we are providing must be 100% accurate. That has been our principle going forward.
But that's a big limitation, no? Because camera is following the ball,
Mhm.
and at best would be covering half the field,
Mhm.
and probably or or these cameras are put differently,
Okay.
so that they have a good coverage of the field. How does that work?
So let's say there are different type of cameras out there. So understand if it's a broadcasting camera, like whichever the recording quality we get from matches and there it follows the ball. So in that scenario, it is not possible to track the entire field at once. But there are other AI cameras out there which are like 180-degree pan view, which record the entire field out there. If we get such a camera feed, then the entire field will get recorded.
But in
So
some sense, the camera is to be purchased still, right? There is a camera involved. You're just saying that your camera is not required. Whatever camera you have,
Mhm.
like, can a phone camera work? Can
Yes, yes.
to what
So
extent?
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we only require is it must be shot from a bit of a height. The player, the jersey number must be visible along with the ball. And if it just slightly pans left to right, covering the entire field, that works for us. And it can be recorded even from an iPhone as well. It can be even like any other cameras like GoPro cameras or even anything out there. We have even right now doing POCs on like CCTV cameras. So there are multiple CCTV cameras covering different angles can be stitched in, create a single unified view, and then track the players. So all of these stuffs are possible. Our entire objective is to provide something to the user which they're already using so that the entry barrier is reduced.
Got it.
So, so shall I share my screen?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
I hope my screen is visible, right?
Yeah.
So, so I'm going to take you quickly through the entire product. So
So the
these will
starting
be
is sorry. So the starting point is a coach or whoever is a user uploads a game video
exactly,
which has little bit better coverage of the ground.
exactly. So all we need from the coaches is the game video to be uploaded. If we have it, they don't have to do anything. So let's say a match is happening today evening, they upload the match today. By tomorrow morning, they have all the data, all the visualizations, inferences, everything, which they can present to the players, and out on top of which they can run their own analysis and generate inferences out of it. So earlier, like I also mentioned, it used to take 2-3 days for them to just collect the data, and then they would be left with very little time to do all of those stuffs, which are actually very much important. So for us, we have actually two products. One is a total management system for the admins, coaches, analysts, tournament organizer, federations, and all. This is like a one-stop platform to track each and every matches, players, teams which are out there. We also have a mobile app for the players as well, where they can see only their stats. They won't be able to see the stats of others. It is, and we have made that in a way so that it is a bit of a gamified experience. They can have achievements, leaderboards, badges, so that they don't get buried in all of these complex information. It is like a fun engagement for them, exactly like playing FIFA, but in real life with themselves. So that was the idea behind the player app. I will get down to it once we have covered the TMS. So in the total management system, this is a simple dashboard where you can see the tournaments, the matches, and all of the teams. Let me go to a simple match summary and give an overview of okay how things look. So once someone clicks a match, they can see a basic level summary of the possession, total shots, shots on target, number of interception, progressive passes, etc. All of which are standard summarized metrics that are provided. On top of that, they can see the match lineup over here, where they would have an understanding, okay, of whoever played the match, what has been the formation, and let's say if I hover over here, I can even see the rating of the
So
rating part.
how are you getting the player names? This the coach has to provide, right? Jersey
Exactly. The Yeah,
players. Yeah.
the coaches along with the video, they just upload the match sheet. They just click a picture of the match sheet,
Okay.
or if it is a digital one available, which is mostly the case, they just upload it and rest is up to us. They don't have to do anything. All the players get automatically created. They're tagged with the jersey numbers, and the rest of the stuff are taken care of.
Yeah.
So you can see a match rating summary as well. That I will get onto it a bit later in over here. So you can see whoever has played in the match. Let me just show one feature one by one. So this is just a simple leaderboard. We have the first attribute here is the sense score. But apart from sense score, we have other attributes as well. Sense score is a proprietary scoring engine where we give a like a score to each and every player based on how their actions has been. It is just not restricted to like the number of goals, number of assists, or all of those key important points. It actually takes into account of each and every action the player has done. So let's say there is a match where the result has been 3-0, but an opposition goalkeeper he has saved more than 10, 12 good shots. That goalkeeper would eventually get a higher rating even though they have lost the match. So that's a philosophy around. Apart from sense score, we have any and every attribute which is like happening here. You have it in the form of a selectable drop down. So let's say short pass. If you click on go, you can get the short pass leaderboard. Then there is let's say through ball. Just click on it, unsuccessful through pass. Then there is close shots. So each and everything that is happening over here, you have it in the form of a selectable attribute. Each and every event which is happening. So once you click on it, you get an entire dashboard or an entire leaderboard of the ranking of the players. So next we move on to the sense matrix. The sense matrix gives an understanding of a inter-team and an intra-team chemistry between the players. So how to read here is, so let's say number 22 has made 11 short passes to number 3. So right now, let's say if I hover over here, I can see, okay, how has been the relation between two players on my feed. So 8 has made 7 short passes. So since I've selected passing over here, this has been the scenario. If I click on defending, you can see the y-axis getting changed. This means that, okay, number 18 or someone in the x-axis has made two like standing tackles to number 8. So that's why you read the data. So how come a coach or someone makes sense out of it is, so let's say we're passing over here. So just to give a like a layman interpretation, we understand, okay, between 22 and 3, they have played 11 passes, so the chemistry is better between them. So let's say as an opposition, if I just mark these two players and remove their chemistry from the game, then my chances of winning becomes a lot more high. Similarly, all these sort of inferences can be created from just looking at this matrix over here. Next, I want to move on to the more visual side of things. For that, we have the network analysis. It gives an average formation of a player to an entire game. So let's say after a match, a player has played, but I want to figure out, okay, what has been average formation of the player in terms of passing. So let's say if you can look in this average formation out here. So number 3 and number 22, these are the center backs who have played mostly a pivot position. Now, how to read this data is the size of the node represents the score, the yellow thing represents the accuracy, and the dots connect, like the lines connecting, represents whom they have passed on to. So let's say if I click on a single player, here I can understand, okay, this 22 has passed on to number 23 three times, or let's say number 316 times, which has been the scenario over here. Similarly, I can get information of each and every player over here. And I have not watched the match, you have not watched the match, but in just a matter of 10 seconds, I can have an understanding of their gameplay. Like they have been mostly passing to and fro from the center back, then the center midfield is more on a, you know, like a pivot position from where they're passing towards the flanks. And from there, the transition or attack has happened. So this is the structure for the Black Rangers. If I want to see the opposition team, I can see the structure is completely different. I have not watched the match, but I can figure out over here that the left back has been pushed forward, but the right back has been pushed slightly backwards. And this has been that transition of play where the center midfielder, like jersey number 86, has played a pivot position, connecting defense to offense. And similarly, while the right back has been pushed back, the right wing has been pushed forward. But here, the left wing has not had that much impact over here. So just having a visual representation gives me an understanding of how the game has been played. And accordingly, the coaches can understand, okay, is this as per their, strategy which they have formulated before the match? Has something not been according to the plan? Has there been any misses? So accordingly, they can figure out what has been the areas of improvement and they can accordingly, take note of them in the next match. Right now, moving to a more zonal level understanding of how things have occurred. So, for instance, we have this passing over here. We can understand from here that okay, 273 passes have occurred in the middle third, 97 in the defensive third, and 76 in the offensive third. Similarly, for the opposition team, 171 in the middle third and 34 in the opposition. So, just by looking over here, we can understand okay, this team, A team over here, had played a lot of more two-end passes in their middle third, and accordingly, like 1 out of 4 passes they have converted into the opposition penalty box. But here, like 1 out of 6 passes they have completed in the opposition penalty box. So even though the number of passes has been higher, if it's not adding a value, it's not a progressive pass, then it's not much of an use to us. So that's like a basic inferencing that we can just figure it out. Similarly, you can look at shooting, defending, each and every attribute can be just figured out from the drop down. If you look at passing as well, you can click on short pass, you can click on even simple passes of how has been. You can even figure out okay, where the most unsuccessful passes has been, it has been in the opposition penalty box. I can figure out the successful to unsuccessful ratio in each and every division. Similarly, I can even remove players, add players, select defenders as a unit, midfielders as a unit, compare my players to opposition players to figure out how the game has progressed. Now moving on to a more deeper understanding, here we have the like sort of a heat map. We call it the activity field. The distribution map was focused on the 3 main zones. The activity field is focusing on each and every individual build that we have over here. So right now you can see okay, 23 passes, simple passes has happened over here. But on over their zone, you can see okay, the number of passes has. So they have played a lot of more two-hand passes between the defense and the midfield line. Similarly, you can notice over here that 25, 23. And as we go into the opposition half, the number of passes have dramatically reduced. And if I look into the possession of the two teams, I will be able to understand, okay, this team has a higher possession. So which is, counter interactive. You can see like the same across other attributes like shooting, each and every attribute we have over here, we have given it as a drop down for the coaches to actually select them and understand of what attribute they are seeing right now, how do they want to make sense out of it. Now, in the activity field, you could get a zonal representation. The vector field actually gives an understanding of how the like the direction of the passes and how exactly it has happened. So let's say if I want to look at the unsuccessful passes, I can actually get a pattern that for this team, the right backs and the right wings, a lot of passes has been missed. Similarly, over here, then left back to left wingers, a lot of passes has been unsuccessful. So it right now gives me a clear understanding of where my area of improvement is. If I want to look at simple passes, I get the pattern of play over here. A lot of more two and four passes has been played in this region. So it's just a direct inference of what I have seen before. So let's say as a coach, if I'm watching the match, I can only register a couple of instances. I won't be having an entire understanding of okay, what has happened exactly in the scenario. So let's say if I see a pass, in my mind it is okay, this pass needs to improve. Probably this player would have done something different. But earlier they were just the coaches, they were just restricted to their like visual memory. They had nothing else. After the match, they would like search the entire video item looking for that event, but they could not find it. So let's say there is a key pass, which probably lead to a shot on the goal. Earlier, as a coach, after the match, they had to search the entire, you know, video for this footage. Right now, they can just open the spotlight link. You can see the video icon popping up. They can just click over here, and that's it. It will directly take to the video action library. The coaches right now they don't have to manually search for anything. Each and everything is there as a selectable attribute. This takes us to our spotlight or our video library. Here you can see all of the attributes. You can just click on it, expand it. If you want to see an assist, I will click on an assist. It will directly show me okay where an assist has been. So the job becomes a lot easier for any coach or an analyst. They right now don't have to search for each and every event. They can just click over here and okay, that's it. So let's say there has been an unsuccessful shot. Okay, there has been an off-target shot. So earlier, like I was mentioning before, they have to keep in mind, note it down somewhere. Right now, they can just okay, click over here. Okay, this is the off-target, and let's see if I want to communicate something. I can save it to a playlist. I can even download it for an offline session. While adding to a playlist, I can add a note, or let's say if I want to tag a player. So let's say John, I can tag a player. The player will receive a notification on that. In that scenario, the feedback loop, which was only restricted to visual memory or in-person sessions, we are digitizing the entire feedback loop. A coach can right now just tag a player, the player will receive a notification on the app, and that's it. That's how efficient a feedback loop has been. They don't have to wait for a physical session where they go through the entire things. It's just the entire memory of what has occurred on the match. We are just digitizing them and reducing the feedback loop by a large extent. There are other events as well. For example, you can see foul, offside. We are correcting even handballs as well. So if you click on handball over here, you can see okay, there's a handball as well. Similarly, free kick, penalty kick, each and everything is collected. So this makes the job easier for both the coaches and the players because right now they don't have to search for anything. They have all their actions in place. Now they can just see the videos and reflect upon them. That's it. By reflecting upon it gives an opportunity for them to improve. Now this is like a match level summary. Once we have, let's say, analyzed a player for a couple of matches, we create an entire data-driven CV out of them. So let's say, let me just select a player over here. So let's say this player has played around 21 matches. Earlier, we have seen a lot of series where it used to be like, okay, this player has played this number of matches, this number of goals, that's it. This team he has played. It used to be like a single one-pager Word document. But right now, what we have tried to establish is if we have all of these data points from a player, we can create an entire performance curve, a player overview, an accuracy chart, an entire digital CV of the player, so that the player can reflect of how things have happened. It becomes easier for the scouts to actually, see the historical performance of the player and figure out, okay, this is where they need to improve. This is like these are the like strong points. A scout may be searching for someone with a specific attribute. Someone, let's say, who can, more of a CDM position, who can connect defense to offense. They can see, okay, these are the long passes that a player has been making, and accordingly, they can make the decision. It is right now not visual. Right now, even in the youth setup, scouting is mostly visual based. The scout, they come to a single match, they see, okay, this is the player they're playing good. Sometimes they even see past history matches and all. But let's say if a player is having a weak day in those 3 games, he's having a stomach upset, then what happens? He loses the entire chance of playing for a big club or something like that. But if an entire data-driven CV has been made, they can understand, a player can understand his progress, a scout can see everything. The entire scouting system can be digitized. And this is where we are planning to go. So whatever features we are seeing for a match level, we can see on a player level as well. You can see their attribute counts, vector field, activity field, per 90-minute stats. You can look into each and every individual level features along with their each and individual level spotlight sections as well. So let's see if I want to see a goal, there is a penalty goal, I can see the goal. The entire player's digital history is right in front of my eyes. One of the important features that we have here is a field map. It basically gives a compatibility rating and it is mostly useful for youth section. So how it works is, let's say a player is playing as a center midfielder, but how compatible is he in other position? We can give you that criteria. So let's say if a player is injured and a coach has to select another player, this compatibility ratio becomes very easy. There has been very much instances where a player has been playing as a defender, as a center back, but he has the capability of producing more passes, progressive passes, forward passes, long passes. So in that scenario, he can be more suitable as a CDM position as well. So all this sort of information can be figured out from this field map that we have created. We have an entire match report and player report as well. But apart from that, you can compare the players. You can just, let's say you want to compare your 4 players. You are sitting in your academy, there are like 200 players, and you do compare, okay, 4 players, which is the best for a suitable position. You have their entire per 90-minute stats. You can see their accuracy, overview, and match by match level performance as well. In this scenario, a coach or an analyst can make a judicial decision in deciding the starting lineup, in deciding, okay, which player to include, who can actually make a difference, whose form is going up or whose form is going down. So let's say this Edward, after this match, his form is going down. So in that scenario, an entire data-driven trade is made. And let's say after this match, if the coach decides to, bench the player, there's an entire data-driven reference out of it. Because, a lot of times we see there's a lot of unset conflicts between the coaches and the players, where the players are, okay, why have I been benched? I feel I have been playing good. But if you have this entire data-driven evaluation, there's no point of a conflict because things are being determined by data. Although we are providing insight to the all of the data, but the coaches, they have the you know, last say in it. So we are just helping the coaches make the judicial decision. So yeah.
Questions like coaches wired like this. Like I can understand top clubs. There's a lot of analytics going on, so they
Mhm,
have people who can use this information to their advantage.
mhm, mhm,
But do you think that the junior levels and the tier three clubs, tier two clubs,
mhm,
or kind of not outside of Europe, where
mhm,
countries are playing football, this kind
mhm.
of analytics are the coach you know capable of using this kind of analytics, and are the players really looking forward to these kind of things? Because one way of early on when you're playing as a young player, you just want to enjoy the game also, not get too technical about it. So
Mhm.
is there the other side of it?
Yeah, that's a very, important, question to be honest. We have made a product and we don't want like unnecessary data-driven competition. Okay, he is the topper, I am not. Right? We don't want any unnecessary competition to arise from it. And hence for the players, they won't have access to all of this information. Like in the player app, which I will be showing, it's more or less gamified fashion to promote healthy competition. That's it. But at the end of the day, it is upon the coaches and analysts to make their best decision. So the data points that we're providing over here, we have tried to provide them in a simplified manner in terms of like charts and graphs. We have avoid as far as possible providing like manual numbers or integers to it or decimal numbers to it. The figure is because they won't understand how things are happening. But let's say if I provide in a chart and graph, okay, this is the performance, like a simple line graph or a bar graph. Probably the coaches they can understand because what we have seen is in the professional level, let's say in a European professional level, they require a lot more data. So for us, our product is structured accordingly. There we have a capability of downloading XML stuff like that. So product tiering has been done from that. So let's say for a youth level coaches, we have like since the entire product is built on a like a on a platform level, we have the capability to switch on and off each and every feature. For them, we don't show all of this complex stuff. So accordingly, we have done this product tiering. So what we have seen here, so let's say it's for a mid senior level or let's say someone from the league team, so that they have an understanding of the data that we generally have. But right now they're not having the affordability or let's say the availability or accessibility to the resource. So then it becomes easier for them, which is not that much technical in terms of data points, and it's not also that much simple. We have tried to keep a fine balance. And probably how it has helped us since we have been working with a lot of clubs and academies across the globe. In India, we have worked with third division, second division, ISL clubs as well. In US, we have worked in academies, US and Canada. In Europe, we are partnered with ACIX, who are like the epitome of youth development. We are present in La Liga. We are even present in Australia and Middle East. So accordingly, when the feedback comes from each and every place, so we try to judicially put everything together and accordingly design the product so that the tiring can be done and it can be useful to a lot of like each and every section of the pyramid of it.
Got it. But is there I understand you kind of make it a little bit simpler, but you talked about inferences somewhere. So
Mhm,
people who do not understand numbers, they
mhm,
could be great coaches, they could be great
mhm,
players.
mhm.
Is there a way they can also benefit from it?
Okay, so we have actually come out with come across with a lot of such instances. So right now, one of the product upgrades that we are coming across is our AI level inferences, where from each match, apart from the data, you will get like, what are your top five improvement points? What are your top five good factors that has happened? So that basically simplifies it to a whole another action where they use like a simple textual representation. So we are coming up with a feature. It will be live in the next couple of weeks. So that is one thing we're coming on. But apart from that, we like generally when we onboard a club, we hold as an introductory part, we hold regular sessions with them. And what we have noticed is with other products which are mostly focusing on numbers, you need to actually do a course to get accustomed to it. If a coach or analyst actually takes us like 16 session for at least one or two matches, they have a general understanding of how to use the product, of okay, what are the features they have, how to actually tweak through things. So they, become accustomed to it. And since each and every action is backed by video, it becomes a lot less simple for them. So
Yeah.
then the entire tagging part is taken care of by us. We are producing the charts and graphs, but at the end, it's just in front of them, and right now they can make sense out of it.
Got
But we generally provide like one or two such sessions to each and every club we onboard. Even if they require more, we provide like we have in-house analysts as well to help them accordingly.
got it. But another way of asking the question is, what is the adoption of these different representations? Is it that one or
Mhm,
two representations that you have are being used more by coaches and the rest are not being
mhm,
used? Because a lot of times, the the engineer in you and the sports fan in you and the
mhm,
FIFA,
mhm,
diehard
mhm,
fanatic in you, probably all these things make a lot of sense. But is
mhm,
there adoption of each of these, or you're seeing that you're this is good to have, not a
mhm,
must-have kind of thing?
mhm. So actually, you have the data point to prove that as well. In terms of adoption, obviously the spotlight feature where you see each and every video being tagged and broken down, that is the most used feature because that is where the coaches they struggle the most. They need the reference pointer. So that is our like a hero feature that we. But apart from that, whatever feature has been built, like I mentioned, it has been just after discussions with the coaches. The inspiration has been FIFA or like other superior research articles that have been there, but the, the implementation has been only after talking with analysts, coaches, and all, where we have seen okay, this is something which can directly help them, which can actually give them a sense of an understanding. We have felt okay, this is something that needs to be included, and it's just not us saying it. For instance, we have examples where for the last 3 years, whoever has qualified from the I League second division to I League first division has been our partner clubs. There has been instances where a team with the same budget who were going to get relegated, they finish in the top six position by keeping the same players in place. So we have those success stories in place. Similarly, one of our like academies in Canada, they have had similar success stories in the competition that they're playing, which in turns for an academy, for a commercial academy as well, it improves the number of admission, which is just a direct correlation of okay, this academy has step out, they're technologically more advanced. I want my kid to be sent over there. So we have seen a lot of such instances happen. But now coming back to the original question that we were discussing, each and every feature has been decided accordingly, but obviously there are more, you know, usage of one feature than the other. It always used to be there.
Got it. And while you're saying that, there's some anecdotal evidence that the teams are performing better after
Mhm,
using your product at your level. Let's say you don't even know what is the outcome of the match and or the championship. Are you seeing like, are they getting better at using their players, having the right player for the right position for the right kind of span of the game and all? Is
mhm,
there any validation that you? I mean, because these are anecdotal. What is the more
mhm,
evidence that this product is working? One is adoption. If they're using that feature every time, that means they're benefiting from it.
Yes.
But the other is, are they really benefiting from it? Accurately, can you because you are an analytics company, you should be able to come somewhere, figure this out also that there is improvement in the player's performance, there is improvement in a team's performance,
Mhm,
a team's game plan or something.
mhm. So to answer this question, what we had interestingly done is, so the season just got started. So we were there in the last season itself. So after the season, we generated an entire like a season summary for all the clubs or the academies that we have been working to actually give an understanding of okay, who are the players, how has been their performance, and how have we seen their performance getting improved. On a parallel manner, we had like length discussions with the coaches of how did they find the product, what has been the use cases. So we coupled the discussion pointers that we had, and then we prepared an entire season-long summary of everything. There we delved deep dive into a lot more deeper stats, a lot more complex features that we have accordingly, and that actually provided a direct correlation. Okay, in a season level, let's say in midway there were some issues with a player. They could see directly from the stats. There was some like team structuring that needed to be changed. Our stats they probably suggested the same. At that point of time, from our conference also after the season ended, they also said, okay, in this month during the middle of the season, we had done some restructuring based on these and this data that we had. And based on the restructuring, then we can see the trajectory improving. So in a whole, it may seem like, okay, they have done good or they have done bad. But when we correlate all of these minute data points to how their experience has been or how their usage has been on the product, we can definitely figure out a direct correlation of, okay, before a match, they have used our product for this, they have spent more time over here. We had a session with them. So let's say we had a session with them and we suggested like top 5 tips from an oppositional standpoint, what you need to do. They had implemented 4, they had not implemented 1. After the match, we can directly see the result and the data is there to back it up. So we have like had multiple instances with multiple clubs. Well, let's say before a match is being done, they used to, sit with us for a short session where we used to give them like a short, like 2, 3 pointer tips, something like that. Okay, what can be done to improve? So we have seen such examples from the past as well, which directly correlates to their performance on the field.
Yeah, but some things would be like very visible, like kind of ball possession. Let's say game by game is my ball possession improving, but it could also be a function of my, let's say, who's the competition. But let's say short passes, or key passes, are they improving on a material level? Or maybe because the other team also at some level, you can also say that that was a more difficult team. So is it like at a granular level? Uh, are the coaches able to see improvement? Because that's a big validation in the way they will look at the product and kind of use the product further aside
So
of this
one,
basis.
one such example is from a senior perspective, or let's say from a professional club perspective who had already exposure to data, the result is, you know, visible very fast. But let's say for an academic who are using such a technology for the first time, who did not have access to it, for them, the first few months would just be understanding of the product and how to make sense out of it. Then is once they have made some sense out of it, are they making changes in the development plan? So that for us is a indicator of success. They're using the product, they're making changes in the development plans in the way they're so each and every academy has a philosophy of or a working philosophy of how they generally train their players, which they have been following let's say for the past 3, 4, 5 years. And if our product is actually helping them to change certain aspects of that philosophy, that means okay, they are getting some information out of it, which is helping them change the way that they design their development pathway for the player, they design their training session. So we have had like multiple instances where our academies upon using the product in the middle of the season they have changed their development strategy slightly. Now upon the end of the season they are incorporating StepOut into making the new strategy for the entire season. How the development philosophy be.
Got it.
So this is how we actually from like a youth or grassroots level we understand okay this is how it is impacting the way the players are getting developed. Because from a youth section, more about winning competition, it's about developing the players better. So if the development, because we are just providing data, ultimately it's upon the coaches to make use of the data to change their practice session, training session. If that is being done, for us, that's like a success story. That okay, we are helping them change their strategy. They are included to step out in their development strategy of how they train the players and all. So that is from a youth level. From a senior level where competitions matters more, it is just a direct correlation. If they're using the product and they're winning matches, that's it. But since our major focus is on the youth or the reserves or the grassroots, we have seen like we consider it as a like a first milestone for us that they have changed. Probably going forth, we can see an entire more historical pathway. Right now, we have data for only 1 or 2 years. Going forth, we'll have the data for 3, 4 years to see okay if the trajectory has improved. And one more point that I want to mention over here is since we are analyzing all of these players from across the globe, we are creating a benchmark. So what does it mean is for a player, let's say I'm in Bangalore, I might not be the best player of an academy. But where do I stand with respect to a national level player? Or where do I stand with respect to an international Premier League player? And now it again boils down to my academic reference. When we used to give JEE entrance exams or even CAT, you know, when I am preparing, I know I'm good. But when I'm giving mock tests, then only I can understand, okay, there are so many kids better than me. That's where I need to improve. Similarly, earlier there was no benchmarking present. A coach is saying, okay, he is the best player of an academy, he's the best player. But right now, since we have the data across all of the geographies of all of the age categories, we can actually give a measurable, like a pathway. So let's say simple, Bangalore level academy player has a passing accuracy of 62%. whereas a Premier League level under 15 player has a passing of accuracy of 89%. So that's the gap that we have to fill. So
Do you see this honestly going up match after match, or let's say few matches after few matches? If that is happening, then the reinforcement is happening also. You don't have to do any of those sessions
mm,
with them.
yeah, I mean there has been few cases where it has happened, but it's still a quite a long path to go, to be honest, where they, because it has been a year or so.
Yeah, it
The
has.
product has been new in the market, and we feel that if we give a couple of years, we can have a measurable, like a correlation of, okay, this is how the performance has improved, and without StepOut, this is how, and another academy which is performing, their performance has happened.
Got it.
So,
Got it. There's one more point. Kind of when you're building, you mentioned that partly it is learning from FIFA how they represent and what metrics they kind of analyze and all, and partly it is the feedback from the coaches. Now there is the other players like Huddle has this Vice Scout, which is used by a lot of top clubs. They have access to the best coaches in Europe, the European clubs who are actually giving feedback, and the product is improving on the feedback of the top coaches. You may not have access to those coaches. So does that mean that your evolution has been inferior to probably their evolution?
actually, it's quite the contrary, to be honest. Because on the other hand, we do have access to, not a lot. They have access to a lot of like top class coaches, and we do have like a couple of access to a few big clubs coaches. But on the contrary, they are operating only in the senior section where the data has been used for a quite a long time. And if you see the evolution of the product, it has been the same for let's say the past 5 years because that has been the standard norm over there. And like I was mentioning in the beginning, all of this analytics was only restricted to the top teams, top clubs, top leagues. So it's like a flat graph over here. But on the other hand, we are working with the youth coaches. Their understanding is different. Their level of, you know, how they perceive things are different. So to build a product for them, for the main target audience, which are not the top tier, which are like not the top 1%, but there is 99% of the pyramid, that has actually helped us evolve our product more faster. And there's a lot of room to go because on the other hand, they have access to all, everything, but it has been a norm over there. So their curve has been plateau. But for us, it has been like an always increasing curve because we are making those technology accessible to everyone. So for the top 1% of the clubs, 98, 90 to 100, like 90 to 95% have already has access. So the if you look at it in that fashion, but in our case, the rest of the 99%, only let's say 5% had access earlier. So that gives us a lot of target audience to actually who can actually give us those feedback and help us improve, which and accordingly the product can be fitted or developed to suit a larger audience.
But
It
is there
should
a
not.
trade-off? Is your product better? So because you're doing some 80/20, 90/10, or 99/1, whatever you're saying, uh, you're building the product for the non-top tier clubs. So your product will not be suited or not be used by top tier clubs. Is that a fair conclusion from that?
No,
You
the
want,
like how Hurdle or Y Scout works is they are only catering to the like top tier clubs and for even the top tier clubs, they're first teams, not their reserves, youth like under 13, 15, 17. What we are doing, we are majorly catering to the youth section of even the top tier clubs. For example, there is a Atletico Madrid out there. We are catering even to the under 13, 15, 17 of them. So in that scenario, right now we're working with Ajax. So even though we are not doing their first team or we are not analyzing the first team, but those are necessarily the same people who are actually involved in even the under 13, 15. So that gives us an advantage for like even if we are not doing the first teams, we are still working with top tier clubs for the youth section. And that actually provides a lot of validation to our product that even though they had a competitor who were working with them for the first teams, still they're using us for their youth, reserves. That means okay, there was a gap over there, which even those all of these products could not fill because they were only restricted to the first teams because those were the data they could only accumulate. And hence that gives like a validation for us as well, where we could have access to all of these, sections in a top club, we are working with even a third division club in Mumbai, and we are working with a Premier League club. So that is the wider level of feedbacks that we are receiving, and that is helping us improve our product category.
Got it. But kind of some of these things are also about halo effect. Which is the product that the top team in EPL is using, when La Liga is using. All those things have rub-off effects on other clubs also. Okay, I
Yes,
should
yes, yes,
also use.
yes, yes. Exactly.
And somewhere, Wisecout has got that. Wisecout has got that place where they are working with the top clubs. Now, uh, is how do you compare your product with Wisecout? We know that you are catering to a different segment; they are catering to a different segment. But can you do a kind of very narrow, very granular kind of comparison with them to help us understand is that the market is taken and the top tier market is taken and you are going after the other market. That is a business standpoint, I understand. But from a product standpoint, are you really up there?
Understood. So, um, again, emphasizing on the point that even in the top tiers, Wisecout is operating only in the first teams who are competing in those, Champions League or all of these, top leagues and all. But even in those top tier clubs, there is like new teams over there, who are our target market. So in that scenario, we are anyways pitching to them. We are anyways reaching out to them. We already have a La Liga club, a Ajax level club. So we already have that. And right now, in terms of a business standpoint, also, yes, we are pitching to them because of all the bureaucracy and the level involved. It takes a lot of time for them to convert.
So that I
Now,
understand. See,
Mhm.
question is not that. Question is around
Okay,
product feature parity. Is your product superior? You are not
understood.
able to convert them. It could happen over time. That's a matter of time. But
Mhm.
is your product inferior or superior to Wisecout?
Understand. So to give you that, I will like lay down like three, four more points. First point
Sure.
is, Wisecout or stuff, other companies like that, they have a more like a data-driven approach where I won't say a data-driven approach, they provide more granular data, which might be difficult for people to understand. We, on the other hand, have, you know, simplified those using charts, graphs, or stuff like that, so that it is more of a user interactive thing. Wisecout, on the other hand, or any other competitors out there, they generally have a mechanism of providing just a match report. After that match, they provide a match report, and it's now for the coaches of the academies to decide how things are. We, even though we provide a match report which is at par with Wisecout and all, our major focus lies on the product and the interactive, like use of information design to actually make them understand. So that's one part of it. Second part, which might be the most important part, is so Huddle. They have a product called Sports Code, which all the youth clubs, everyone has been using. Using that, they have to like manually tag each and every action, which I was referring to earlier. Our product automates the entire process. Since they're automating the entire process, they don't have to do a manual tagging on each and everything that is happening on the page. They just upload the match video, and next day they get the data. It's as convenient as that. So that is like a major USP that we have over other, products like sports code and all, whether to manually tag. Because we're taking away 3-4 days, we're simplifying those 3-4 days and just converting that into hours. So that's a like a major USP we have over other products. Third is, since we are not manually correcting them, we have like our data collection process is AI assisted, where we are leveraging technology to generate the data. And then all of this data are converted into charts and graphs and using information design so that it is visible to the coaches. So let's say if I consider youth academy, so let's say even a top tier level club youth academy, they're using sports code to manually tag it. We, on the other hand, are giving them an opportunity where they can just upload the video and get the data. So that convenience is something which we believe is giving us a higher competitive edge, where the coaches and analysts, they don't have to do anything. They can focus their time on only this. And the last point that I have to focus on is our player app. Since all of like no one in the ecosystem has built a player app which can cater to the player, show them their strength and weakness, and even create an ecosystem out of this. So right now with our player app, we are digitizing their experience. They can you know see all of their numbers. They can see you know it is like a sort of a gamification that has happened. So for the players also, earlier the coaches were the only users, but right now with our player app, the players are our users as well. The players now getting an understanding of how what do those numbers actually mean. And on top of that, so let's say there is an academy. who can, create an achievement or a badging system that, okay, whoever reaches that 80% accuracy milestone will get a gold badge or like a Nike push, stuff like that. So the entire gamification can be done. And in today's world, we know that everything is getting digitized and each and every kid out here is having a mobile phone and, they're constantly in the social media stuff. So over there, if a kid can have an option to create their own highlight, post it on social media, see the leaderboard, post it on social media, share it across. That gives a much more confidence boost for the players as well. So earlier, all of these products are directed only to the coaches, but here with our player app, we're digitizing the experience for the players as well. So right now they are also included and they also understand what those numbers mean, but in a different fashion. The product, the data point is coming across same, but the product is designed accordingly so that it meets both the users. So I believe these are our most of competitive edges we have over everyone else.
So, see, the main point of your product is to be it is better, faster, cheaper. There is more AI. Presentation is very different. It's like those are very static, old world batch report kind of a thing, right? And there you need analysts because they are very granular data. You need some analysts to kind of make sense of that report. And while yours are more like actionable as
Mhm.
such. So one is see the whole idea behind all this is where you are today, what Amish is pointing in, but tomorrow you'll be like because we are evaluating you as what you have built today and
Mhm.
what you are building today probably and they probably are also building. So okay, let me call this out. That one is what is your roadmap and how you get better over time, probably what Avish mentioned. But the other question is the product that you have, like the fact that the claim that you have a superior product could be because you're starting now and you're building it differently.
Mhm.
But a lot of power that you're getting is from AI. And
Mhm.
AI is not something which is only available to you. That would be available to them also.
Mhm.
So why would they not build something like this uh, before you are able to kind of become big? These are
Understood.
the two.
So answering the last question first, that why would they not build what we have built? It, boils down to a business model. We have a SaaS model where you upload a video, get data, more of like a SaaS model where, but they, on the other hand, they have a data center model where they're collecting data of all the top leagues and they're selling it to each and every one of them. So fundamentally, business model is something that is, and since like Hudl is a large company right now, okay, they're focusing on the top leagues and they are partnering with the league and selling those data to whoever is willing to pay for the same. We, on the other hand, have a different SaaS model. So that is, point one of where we feel that, okay, we have an advantage. Second is, yes, they can use AI, they can generate stuff, but here also, a fast mover advantage plays a role. If right now we are starting from the youth and their target audience is mostly the seniors and the top talents, but our target audience is majorly the youth section of even the top 10. So what we realized is if we can, so let's say under 15 player is using our product right now. After 4 years, 5 years, when they will be the senior team, they would originally like they generally prefer a product. And in that way, an automatic pull comes into play. And in that way, it's not a push mechanism which we are doing for the first team. It's just a pull mechanism that automatically comes. Because for the past 5 years, they have been using our product. The entire team has been trained accordingly. So that's the strategic approach that we have taken. So in terms of the product roadmap, so right now we are at a performance analysis stage. We are providing service to, let's say, the coaches. We are just providing service to the player. Going forward, with all the data that we have, we aim to create a digital scouting ecosystem where all these youth players, all these coaches, they can be connected, and talent identification will be faster. So let's say we have a La Liga club who are using us to analyze the matches and say similarly we have a club from let's say in Africa. If a talent is discovered from Africa, it would be like a marketplace where like a data scouting system where that agent or a coach from Africa would be able to list their players over there, and they would have access to let's say La Liga club as well. So the scouting process becomes very much efficient, and we are removing all the middlemen, everything out of it. We won't be scouts, we won't be agents, but let's say if a scout is there, they would actually use our product. Let's say a scout from La Liga would actually use our product to help scout the players out. Another important point that we feel is a lot of like What they have built and what we are not doing is, generating data of leagues and selling it to everyone. Because we believe with the data privacy rules in place, with FIFPro and the regulations that are coming in place, each and every data belongs to the player. Even though I'm generating data out of it, if, like I mentioned, if I want to list a player in the scouting system also, the consent or access should be given by the players. And here's where our player app comes into place. So in our player app, they would have an option that, okay, I'm giving consent for myself to be listed on that platform, then only that player will be listed. Then only that player data would be available to us. So that's a conscious decision that we took, which other competitors are doing. They're just generating data, a league, and selling it to whoever is paying for it. Even we can buy that data. That's not how we operate. We feel that because this is anywhere coming in place, then not if not in the next time, the next 3-4 years. Because there has been a motion in place, FIFPro, who are the governing body for all of these football players and in each and every other sport, with the GDPR rules getting more stricter, all of these data privacy issues will come. So we believe like complying with those data privacy issues, if only the player has consent, if the player only provides consent so that they are listed on that, the player or the parent to be listed on that platform, then only the scouting would happen. And that is like a very important thing which we believe would align with our thoughts on data privacy so that we are not misusing data because mostly all of this will be minors below the age of 18 years. So we are not misusing the data. We are not selling it to each and everyone. So let's say there's a betting company out there, or let's say something more, in a gambling scenario takes into place where match fixing stuff like that can happen. There is a lot of use cases of all of these data points, but since we are generating the data, it's our fundamental responsibility. Like, there's a saying, with great power comes great responsibility. Right now, we have the power to generate the data and give you a prediction who is going to be the next big player. And hence, the responsibility belongs to us of how we judiciously use those data. And we are complying with all of those privacy laws that are on there.